It's just a level of bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Any fucking new idea they come up with is supposed to make things better, makes things worse.
Today I got a 2011 Dodge Journey Crew all-wheel drive with this notorious 3.6, I believe this is. And we have a oil pressure sensor code. Oil pressure sensor is buried way down in here up underneath our intake. So what we're going to have to do is pull all of this top section off of here and our intake over there. So let me gather up some weapons here and I'll be right back. First thing we want to do here is get our air box out of here. We've got some 8mm here, 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 and we have our clamp here. We also have a hose right here we're going to have to pop off. I already took this off, but I'm going to loosen this up, get this air box out of the way, and then we're going to work on this part of the air cleaner assembly. This tube back here, there's a clamp right here, and then there is a hose that is tie strapped to this actual tube right here. So we're going to have to either cut that tie strap or find a way to get it out of there. So let me remove this box and I'll come back. My air box is out of the way, and now we're going to get this tube out of here. So to do that, you have to take this hose off of here, and you're also going to have to remove this hose here from back here. There's a port right there, and once we've gotten to that point, you can maneuver this around a little bit, and you should be able to see the tie strap that's holding this piece on right there. So we're probably going to have to cut that tie strap, or okay, I see how it goes through there. That pushes down onto and through that piece. So there's a little retaining clip here that's pushed through this tube. I'm going to have to try and pop that out of there. So once I get that out of there, my next goal here is to start taking some of the wiring harness loose here. Just this clips on here. Yeah, it'll just slide right off of there. And there's probably a couple more here, and we'll take this connector off here. Looks like for these connectors, we'll just slide back our red lock. We got too big of a screwdriver here. There we go. Slide that back, and we'll squeeze it down on the end. That should come off. I don't think I have to remove that all the way. All right, we'll figure that out. But I'll come back once I've gotten my air box out of here and gotten some of this stuff loose. Okay, I'm at the point now where I'm taking my electrical connectors loose, and I showed this one how we slide back this red lock, and then we'll squeeze that down and then pull our connector out. Same way with this one, except it's a gray lock. We'll pull that one out, slide it back, and then we'll be able to squeeze it like so, and that releases the little clamp in there, little tit in there, and you can slide that out. There's a couple of retainers you're going to have to pull out. Let's see, one was right here. It's a push, like a push retainer, and it's just the same one that is back here that you're going to have to get off of this air cleaner tube right here that goes through that little hole right there. Then we got one more right here. And what I like to do is spray it down with a little WD-40 and then use my side cutters and just kind of pry it out of the retaining hole. So we got our harness loose, and get that out the way. And we're going to be taking this clamp off here for this hose. Looks like we've got some plastic pin retainers here. Box here. We got another connector here. We're going to have to take that one loose. Get that out of there, and you can see there's a clamp around our throttle body. You just can't see. Now we're going to get it out of there just yet. So let me fiddle around with this, and I'll be right back. Get these little plastic retainers out. What you're going to need to do is take a screwdriver and basically just kind of get on the side of this. And you can twist it. I managed to pry mine up a little bit, so it is coming out of there. Grab it, pull that out of there. That's what it looks like. There's a little pin. There's the retainer part. The base of it just expands once you put that pin in there, and that locks it in. So I think that's the only one, but I'm going to look around here and see. There is one other push connector here, push pin. It locks this hose into that retaining hole right there. I want to check around and see if there's anything else before I try and take this out. I'll be back. My air box out of here. That was a little bit of a challenge. The reason that is when you flip this over, there are some locators here, there and there, and they mount onto these two little studs right here, so they tend to want to stick. What I like to usually do is put a little grease in there so that they don't stick as hard next time you go to take it off. And also be careful when you're taking this off, because this little rubber ring will come off when you separate it from the throttle body right here. There is no clamp on there, it's just a rubber gasket. And to get this thing out of here, you're really going to have to try and maneuver this back in that back section. You play with it, it'll come out of there, but yeah, it gave me a little headache trying to get that out of there. So let me go over this and see what we're going to do next. Yeah, we're going to get that hose off of there. It looks like there's a couple of nuts that hold our intake plenum here. There's another one right here, look like 210 millimeters. We've got another one here. There's another one right here. And we've got a bunch of 8 millimeters here, there, down in here. There's one there, there's one there. And we're going to blow all of this stuff out of here with some compressed air so none of that stuff goes into our motor. Yeah, once I've got to that point, I'll come on back and highlight what I've done here. Here's where I'm at. I've got my hose loose here. I've got my 210 millimeter nuts loose on this bracket that's attached to the upper plenum, but it still wouldn't come loose. So at that point, you're going to have to remove the 13 millimeter nut that's on this bracket here. And what I managed to do was kind of pull this bracket towards the driver's side and get a 13 millimeter wrench behind this bracket, because there's a stud that goes through this bracket behind here that has a nut on it. Once we get that loose, this thing still won't come out. So I got the two 10 millimeter nuts off the front here and over here. But what it looks like I'm going to have to do is go down here to the bottom part, take this wiring harness connector off, and there's some 13 millimeter studs with nuts down here and down there that are for this bracket and this bracket here. Oh, the sun is killing me here. So essentially what I'm going to have to do is take these brackets loose, because there's no way to shift this intake plenum backwards or forwards with these mounting brackets holding it. So I'm going to get all of this stuff loose, and looks like I'm going to have to get this wiring harness out of here. Well, that one might be all right. This bottom one here has got to come out of here. This connector's got to come off that stud. And there's one more connector, wiring harness connector here. And then we've got another, I think that's a 13 down there, right here. I believe that's 13. So once I've gotten to that point, I'll come on back, and if I run into any other issues, I can pinpoint them. Be right back. Hey folks, what a pain in the ass that was. So what I ended up doing here was basically taking this wiring harness completely out of my way. I disconnected all this over here from the cam sensors and just got it out of my way. No big deal. So what I ended up having to do was take the nuts loose that are on these studs here that hold these brackets. So that goes like that. Now that I got that loose, I can manipulate my intake plenum here with both of those loose. So this should just come right up. Loosen these screws up. Yeah, this should just rise right up off of here now. Get those back ones. I got to slide out of that back bracket like that. Okay, I got to loosen up a couple of those screws, but yeah, essentially that's what has to happen. Now I'm going to lift this off of here and I'll come right back. I've got my intake plenum removed, and what I did was stick some towels down in here. You do not want to get anything in your engine, and I took some compressed air and blew all the leaves and dirt and stuff from around the lower intake. So our next goal here is going to be getting these fuel injectors disconnected here. These are these sliding lock tabs. You have to pull them up, and you should be able to squeeze this from that point. Yeah, squeeze it. So essentially you slide the lock tab up, and then you'll push down on this black part right here while you're pulling it off. Got some retainers here. Take your side cutters and just kind of pry those up. There. I got another one over here, another one right here, and from that point, no, we got one right there. From that point, we'll disconnect our fuel line, which is right here. Got a squeeze clip here. Keep in mind, this is under pressure. There is no actual Schrader valve on here to relieve the pressure. So what you can do is pull the fuel pump fuse and crank the engine over a couple times before you've taken all of this apart. Do that while the engine is still intact. Yeah, so let me start pulling these connectors off of here, and I'll come on back once I got to that point. My fuel line loose, and I'm going to start taking these lower intake bolts loose. I want to leave a fuel rail attached to this lower intake, so don't take out these 4 bolts here. Leave those in there. Alright, that should be all of them. Let's get them all the way loose. Well, make sure they're free because they tend to hang up. You won't be able to lift this thing off of here. And when you lift this off, be careful because there is gas still in that fuel rail, so you may spill a little bit. Just keep that in mind. Okay, all our bolts are loose. Yeah, it's moving already. Okay, so let's just lift this up and up out of there. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to shove some towels down in here because we don't want anything going down into our engine. But essentially, this is where our oil pressure switch is located, right down in there. I'm going to stick some towels down in there. Here is our oil pressure switch right here. And we're just going to squeeze this connector right here, and this should slide right off of here. With a great deal of difficulty, of course. Okay, and I may move this harness here just to get this out the way. So this is one of those safety clips we got to pull up. And we should be able to squeeze. There we go. All right, so there's a better view of it. I got to figure out what tool I'm going to use to get that out. I've got a couple of different oil pressure switch sockets. So let me go and grab those. I'll be right back. I'm going to attempt to use this oil pressure switch socket right here. It's so tight down in there. Pretty sure I'm not going to be able to get a ratchet in the end of there, so I will have to use 1 1/8 inch wrench on this big nut on the end here. So let me set this camera up, and hopefully y'all will be able to watch this. I might be able to get a ratchet in there. Let's see if we can do it with the ratchet. Oh yeah, she's gonna come loose. Beautiful. Gotta love it when a plan comes together and things go your way, because it don't happen too often. Just like now. Of course, the socket won't come off. Yeah, always some bullshit, ain't it? Come on off of there, baby. Always something. But it is coming loose, so guess I shouldn't complain. But let's just try and simplify my life here. Oh yeah, that doesn't want to come out of there. There we go. It should be loose enough where I can spin it out by hand. But before I take that out, let me go get my new part. Here's what the new one looks like. We got 3 connectors, 3-pin connector. So let's get that unscrewed. Don't think we'll lose any oil. Everything should be drained down, and if it is a little bit come out, that's all right. Yeah, we got nothing coming out of there. Okay, just gonna tighten that hand tight. That hose will be in the way. Get this to turn just a little bit. We'll be all right. There we go. Trying to make this where you all can see. see where our connector is. We want it sitting up top if we can. A little bit off there. Almost there. Should be relatively close. Yeah, there we go. Good enough. And what we'll do, get our connector back on here. There we go. Put that one back on. Lock it into place. And she's in. So now what I'm going to do is clean up all of my areas here, around here. And I'll show you the lower intake once I come back. Lower intake, and we're going to be changing out our seals here. Just going to take those out. I have set my intake, lower intake, back down here in place, and what I'm going to do next is torque this down, but I wanted to give the torque sequence. Alright, so we're going to start number 1 here. We got number 2 here. We got number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that gets torqued to 106 inch-pounds. So I'm going to torque that down. I've got my lower intake torqued down, and now my next move is to start putting back my electrical connectors for my injectors and all the wiring harnesses that I had to pull out of here to get this thing out. So we got this one over here. All this will just go right back into place. I actually disconnected my coils too. I move anything out the way that I feel is necessary. So if you feel that something's in your way, don't hesitate to get it out your way. No set way of really doing this. Just whatever you're comfortable with doing. So I'm gonna get all of this buckled back down, and I'm gonna get the upper intake, and when I get to that point, I'll come back and I'll show the torque sequence for that. I've got all my wiring harnesses back in place and all the little connectors. So now I am going to remove these blue towels out of here. Do not leave these in there. Don't forget them. Be in a world of trouble. All clear, and all clear. All right, got my seals in place already. Put my upper intake back down on here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit that down on there and get that into place, and I'll come back when I'm ready to torque that down. I have set my upper intake back down in place, and I'll go over the torque sequence for these, and it's going to be, let's see, this is 89 inch-pounds, and we're going to start with, this is number 1 here in this corner, You got number 2 here. From there we go to number 3 up here. Then we got 4 right here, 5 there, and over here we've got 6 and 7, and that's 89 inch-pounds. When you do sit this upper plenum back down, make sure that your studs go back through your bracket in the back, otherwise this thing's not going to sit down right. And make sure your front ones are out of the way. If you've got those bolts loosened up enough down there, they should just be pushed off to the side. So I'm gonna torque this down and I'll come on back once I got to that point. I am finally at the point where I've gotten everything torqued back down, got all my lines ran back, all my electrical connectors and electrical tie downs put back in place. All my brackets are tight. The only thing I did leave loose is this piece right here, because this is going to have to go over part of that intake tube. So I'm going to reassemble all of that, and once I get to that point, I'll come on back. Hey folks, she's all back together. So let me go over this again in case anybody needs to take a look at where these things go, where your harnesses go and hoses and so forth. And again, when you're putting this plenum back on here, just watch your brackets and don't forget about the bolt down at the bottom of the bracket and that bolt behind that first bracket. We got these brackets here, those bolts. Don't forget to tighten those up. And that about concludes this. So if this helped you out any, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that share button, and I will catch you on the next one.